Welcome, NRA 2017 attendees to the Veridian booth. I'm John Sheehan, Head of Law Enforcement Sales for Veridian Weapon Tech, and I'm joined here by someone everybody knows, Rob Pincus. Rob, say hi to everybody.
Hey everybody, glad to be here on the Just a Fact stage. This is actually, I've never done this, a live mic'd event that we're recording with a gun pointed at me. It's kind of interesting.
Isn't it great? Yeah, we've got someone here with us right now with just such extensive experience in personal defense, and you've trained everyone from just the Joe on the street to military to law enforcement, and you're just a wealth of knowledge. And it's just, if you could give us a little bit about your background and how you got started and how this all came to be, Rob.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. The diversity of students that I've had really have a lot to do with why I do what I do, and I guess how we've done what we've done, because it's the students that drive so much of what I.C.E. training company does, and of course the information we put out through Personal Defense Network, even the companies that we partner with, with Veridian as a tour sponsor for the last couple of years, and working with you guys, because you guys help solve problems for the students, and that's how we pick our sponsors, and that's really what every instructor should be doing. There is a value to someone who wants to share what they've done, a value to someone who wants to share their experiences and say, here's what I know, and just pass on knowledge. Sort of in a vacuum, right? And just say, this is the knowledge I have. Anyone who wants it, I'll give it to you, and hopefully you can find value in it. But what I've really tried to do, and what the diversity of the student body that I've worked with over the years, I think empowers me to do well, I hope, is ask the student first, what problems are you trying to solve? Or maybe do the research and help them understand what problems they're trying to solve, especially for the new person. Now, a Navy SEAL team comes to me, they know more about their problem they're trying to solve than I do, but I may be able to help them solve it in a way they hadn't thought of because of an Army team I worked with, or because of something that a SWAT team showed me one time. Maybe a different SEAL team from the other coast found something out, and in a training it came up, and I can now pass that on to these guys because it just hasn't gone through their chain of communication. And all of that filters down to that person who's never touched a gun before. They don't know what problems they're trying to solve. The person who is interested in personal defense, interested in owning a firearm, interested in having the right accessories. They don't know why do they need a green laser. I was with a bunch of students in Massachusetts 2 days ago, and we were on the range. They had never seen done some of the things that we were doing on the rifle. For you get knocked down, you can't get your rifle into a shooting position, but you got your X5L on there, you push that button, and now you have a laser. You can still use the gun, even though you're injured and you can't get into a shooting position. And that was something that we've taught our military and law enforcement guys for decades, the improvised shooting positions, and employing lasers for 20 years as well. Here's a way to do it inexpensively, reliably, and this explains the value of this accessory to the student in a way they'd never seen before.
The thing too is you mentioned training military and SWAT personnel and everything, and I come from a SWAT background, spent about half my law enforcement career on a SWAT team, and you run into the training trap where you become so insular that everything is trained from the inside and you don't look outside for outside solutions, and it's the worst position that you can find yourself in. You really need to be open to those outside training opportunities from folks like yourself that are bringing in that wealth of knowledge from the outside, because you never know. I mean, you might not have skinned that cat from every specific angle that you thought you could, and you bring someone in like you and they're like, wow, we never thought of that. Well, it's because you're training in a bubble.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you're not good at what you do, and that goes from the best teams in the world all the way down to the person who's maybe a great shooter. You're really good at what you've been doing as far as your shooting practice and your skill development, but if you haven't thought about how to apply that shooting skill to the situations you might be in, it could be a whole paradigm shift. It's a whole different thing, and that's why going out and asking people, talking to people, talking to the trainers, talking to other students is so incredibly important. And the agency, I know you guys were busy, right? You guys had a lot going on in Vegas, and you guys knew you needed it. Sometimes there's smaller agencies out there, they just don't even know. And they're like that homeowner that has the gun and they don't even know that they might need to start asking the questions, because luckily we live in a time and place where most people don't have to use their guns. Most cops don't have to use their guns. So that urgency may not be there. It has to come from within, and the message that we spend this right here, the Just the Fact stage, somebody's going to see this on the internet, and it's going to hopefully inspire you to get that training, ask those questions. And that's incredibly important. And these services that responsible companies provide do more to encourage those questions to be asked and to find the right answers than really anything else we're doing.
Honestly, when you're looking at training civilians or you're looking at training law enforcement, there are so many times where I've seen someone come in and everything they know they saw in a movie or on TV.
Sure.
And it always used to crack me up if you do a building search class with somebody and they come in and we call it either the low Crockett or the high Sabrina.
Yeah.
So it's don't do Miami Vice, don't do Charlie's Angels. Look, the weapon's out, keep it ready to go, reduce your lag time, and you're trying to unfortunately untrain some of that Hollywood TV stuff that we all tend to see as trainers, and we're trying to get people into it. They think that, well, I saw this guy on TV do it, it must be the right way to do it.
Yeah, and it's not. You know, and I think sometimes intellectually, people get it, like that's TV, that's not the best way to do it, but emotionally and through repetition, if you've never been to the class and you've never practiced it, and you've never thought about solving those problems, but you've seen Cagney and Lacey episodes and Miami Vice episodes, and you know, you've seen all these movies over and over and over and over again. You know, I've done some of that consulting with some of the technical consulting for productions, and I never forget one time they had the guy kind of come out in like an extended ready coming around a corner, and the bad guy grabs the gun and kicks it out of his hand or whatever, and then they fight. And you know, how would you do it? Is this good? And, no, it's not good, because the fact that he got the gun taken away, that's probably not good. Let's pull it in, have his hand when he goes around a corner, the guy can try to get it, he can smack it away, he can shoot him and move on. And like, well, then how do we get to the fight scene?
Right.
You know, and so sometimes you don't realize that if there's no drama, if the good guy doesn't get the gun kicked out of his hand, if the good guy doesn't run out of ammo, if the good guy doesn't miss or whatever happens, then the movie isn't as compelling.
Right.
So intellectually, when you explain it to somebody, all of a sudden you see a light bulb go off. And it's like, so wait, you mean they're not, just because he's the hero doesn't mean he's doing it right.
Right.
So the repetition of seeing that over and over again, if you gotta kind of break that, right? Like go read the book, watch the DVDs, go to personaldefensenetwork.com, go out and train to see how it's done right, to kind of break that programming you've got from every TV show where the hero has to do something wrong so that at the end he can triumph.
No, I was fortunate. I got hired by Universal right when I retired to work on Jason Bourne, and I was the SWAT and police technical advisor for the movie. And I got to tell you that's one franchise where they insist on everything being as realistic as possible.
Oh, that's great.
So, you know, it's just a fantastic deal, but where you'd go into a writer's meeting and they'd ask you, hey, is this something that would actually happen? And you're actually giving your input in on it too. So there are some that do it right.
That's
there
great.
Are far and few between, but there are some that do it right.
That's awesome, and you know, and you see it. You know, we can see it. We can tell the difference if we've seen what that technique is, or we've seen what that problem is enough times. You recognize when it's done right in the movies for sure. And you know, I don't know if you've ever worked with Harry Humphreys, but
I know Harry.
Yeah, Harry. I mean, he's you know, kind of a legend in the military circles, if you know who he is. But then he's also become one of the greatest professional technical consultants for a long time, making things look good. And you could tell when he's you could tell us for sure in the 2000s when there were movies that came out that he was involved in.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about training with I.C.E. and everything.
So I.C.E. Training Company is a company that really focuses on helping people develop applicable skills, right? So what we're looking for is efficiency in the context of the most likely event. And one of the things I've always sort of talked a lot about driving and shooting for people that don't do a lot of shooting. Not the armed professional side, but from the personal defense side, the average NRA member. Talk a lot about driving and shooting, because you drive every day. And you're driving, you're not 10 and 2 looking at the mirrors, you're not doing that, right? You're putting on your makeup, you're eating a sandwich, you're checking something, you're changing your radio station, you're talking to people, you're looking at that.
Everything you're not supposed to do.
Right, you're looking at a map, you're looking at the things, you're looking for road signs, you're looking for the address, you're doing things you have to do, and you're driving. And in the middle of a fight, there are all kinds of things you have to keep track of that aren't trigger press, that are your thumbs in the right place with your grip. And if all you ever do when you shoot is you go to the range and you take 30 seconds to get your grip right, you sort of, you know, like Murtaugh in Lethal Weapon, right? You crack your neck and you know, get your feet perfect, and then you shoot your tight group, and you feel good about yourself. That's great as a shooter, but when it comes time to apply your shooting skill, you probably have what I would consider to be a skewed perspective of what you're actually going to be capable of.
Correct. Yeah.
And with driving, we don't. When the car comes out of the parking lot at Walmart in front of us, we see that car moving, and right away our foot goes to the brake. You know, and we probably don't even think about it. People don't look under the dash for the brake. The foot just goes there because of the repetition and context we're good at driving. So the analogy I draw is the range is a racetrack. And if you went to the racetrack, you would if you wanted to set the best lap time, you would have different tires. You probably have a whole different car. Right? You'd apex those left-hand turns. You'd drive in a completely different way to set the best lap time you ever could. Well, if you think of that analogy, take it back to the range. If you're trying to shoot the tightest group you can, you're trying to shoot the fastest 3 targets, clear the plate rack the fastest, you're probably doing it differently because you're in a controlled environment, you know exactly what's going to happen. You know, and you look at the guns that the fastest, bestest USPSA type guys are shooting, they're not carry guns, they're not duty guns, they're not military deployment guns, because they're tailored to that racetrack environment. And I think sometimes people get confused. Because we don't have to use our guns every day, which is a great thing, and when we shoot, it's in a controlled environment, sometimes we will chase the racetrack performance instead of those applicable skills. So that's a big focus for I.C.E. training companies, making sure we don't want you to be the best shooter you can be on the range. It's really the opportunity to apply high-level marksmanship in the real world really doesn't come up, right? So we want you to be the most efficient shooter you can be in the context of defensive shooting, not the best racetrack guy. Because if you apex that left-hand turn on that backcountry road, you're going to hit a truck.
Absolutely.
And we don't want you to hit that truck. We don't want you to have the trigger that's so light that the gun goes off before you're in a shooting position. We don't want you to have the gun that, or the shooting technique that if your feet aren't exactly in the right place, you feel like you can't control the gun. You can't control recoil. Well, who knows where your feet are going to be?
Well, to circle that back around to our product too, is that our product isn't the most effective at the range. It's effective when you need it to be effective.
Absolutely.
Instant on technology, you're in an unconventional shooting position, and you have to get on target quick. That's where our product really shines too, and that's so important, and I know that's why you guys use it in your training as well.
And I carry the reactor on my XDS, and it's an instant on. I have a crossbreed appendix carry holster with a little magnet switch in there. It comes out, the light comes on. So a lot of times in classes, I like to take student guns and demo with them and kind of show them it's not about the gun, and I don't have trick custom gear that I carry around every day. It's just it's got a quality instant on laser, it's a quality holster, and it's a quality gun, and it's got sights. The sights, the Ameriglow claw sights that I helped them design. It's got that on there. Other than that, it's just it's designed to work, right? It's designed to work up close and efficient. And I tell my students, they say, "Oh, you have a laser on there. Are you using the is that your primary aiming device?" And it's not. Right? And I don't think you guys would push that as everybody needs to look at their laser dot, because it doesn't make any sense.
No.
Right? So what it is kinesthetic alignment, right? You drive the gun out, you get it aligned with your line of sight, and across your bedroom, around your car, you're probably looking at the threat, driving the gun out to your eyes, and there's your aim. You need a higher level of precision. You focus on that front sight, and you have your sight alignment, sight picture, kind of a traditional way of aligning and aiming the gun. But in situations where you can't get into that shooting position, in situations where the guy's coming at you, and if you hold the gun out, he might smack the gun because he's so close, and you just need to shoot from here, but you're not in contact, that laser dot showing up on that chest lets you know you're not hurting those other people.
Right, it's invaluable.
When you have a situation where the sight's low light, crazy light, no contrast, if you put the sights up there and you can't really make out a clear sight alignment, sight picture, but you drop that gun just ever so slightly out of your field of your line of sight, and boom, you look for that green dot's going to help you get that precision.
Right.
And it is, again, a light bulb moment when the students understand, finally, where the role for that is. Because, let's face it, lasers have been marketed to the defensive community for a long time, and for some of that time, I don't know that there was a lot of responsibility in what we saw as the advertising and the marketing. The implication everybody needs a laser, the implication having a laser on your gun is going to mean you don't have to shoot somebody because you're going to intimidate them. These kinds of things.
It was a fallacy.
They are. They're
really
myths.
was.
I mean, they're lies, right? And that's you said the same thing. I'm going to say it very directly. You're telling people the wrong thing. The laser is a device to help you use the gun the way the gun is intended to be used. It's not a device you put on a gun so you don't have to use the gun.
Right. Or it's not a panacea that you don't have to train once you put a laser on a gun.
Well,
and that's the other thing I try to tell people too, even though I'm working for a company that makes lasers, and look, this isn't a panacea. This isn't, okay, I put this on here and now I don't need to go to the range as much because whenever I put the laser on target, I'm going to squeeze and it's going to go where I want it to go. You still have to have the basic fundamentals of shooting there.
Absolutely.
And it's just going to make you that much better, and it's also the other reason being your liability. You're going to be responsible for every one of those rounds goes. It's not just in law enforcement that happens, and if you hit the wrong person, it's not a good thing. No,
and what I say is the laser expands the circumstances under which you can apply your shooting skills. Because in those situations where the space isn't available to get into a shooting position, or when the light isn't available to get a traditional sight picture, sight alignment, the laser is what fills those gaps in a way that nothing else really can. You know, and you guys, of course, you have light laser combos. So people say, well, I have a light, and the light's going to let me search, and if I have to choose between a laser and a light, you don't.
You don't.
Here you go, light laser combo, and now you can be in a position where you have the light if you need it. I prefer a handheld light as a primary, but if you can't use it, you don't have it, you got to let go, you got to use 2 hands. It's great to have that light on the gun, and now I've also got a laser aiming device that helps me in those other situations, and for the right price and the right size.
Well, the other thing, too, is people often think, well, it's telegraphing my position if I've got that laser or that light. And that's not true either, because if I have to move from point A to B, like, say, across a hallway or anything, the way our stuff is set up ergonomically is if I'm finger indexing properly, I can turn it off instantly, tap it off, get to where I need to go to, put it back on again, and I haven't telegraphed anything. No. So, you know, that's another fallacy, and that's something that I'm always trying to combat when I'm talking about our product, as well as, no, you actually are able to turn it off and move and not telegraph your position. And speaking as being a role player, I know you've probably done your fair share of it too. If you've got a blinding light coming at you in a dark room, you're not focused on where that light is moving to. You're just focused on the fact that you've got an extremely bright light in your eyes. So that's also kind of a fallacy. But I know you also brought something that this is really interesting. You sketched a handgun on a napkin.
Basically, yeah.
That now this has become an actual working firearm, and you guys are bringing that out this year. And I'm going to pull out my Fact Micro here so we can get a little closer look at it.
Yeah. So this is, obviously it's got the safety tag. It does not have a striker. The striker's been ground down, so the gun will work, but we'll just check it just in case, just to let everybody know, because we are going to be pointing it in the general direction as we do at trade shows. This is the Avidity Arms Pd10. So the Avidity Arms Pd10 is a 10+1 single stack 9mm handgun. It's designed by me. I was asked by my friends at Eagle Imports, a couple other guys inside of the industry, said, you know, Rob, we're thinking of doing manufacturing. Eagle Imports is celebrating their 30th anniversary next year, and Eagle Industries, the parent company, realizes that relying on foreign-made guns for your business model may not be the best thing, and boy, wouldn't it be great to have some American-made guns. And as they started to look around, they said, you know, we have the opportunity to do something here with the relationship we have with Rob and the manufacturing relationships that we have. Let's create a company, start our own company, do our thing. And it started as the idea was it was going to be me and a few other guys designing guns for this Eagle Defense was the first company. And then as things went on and things progress as they do, they change, they evolve, plan B, plan C, plan D. And it came down to, you know what, let's make it smaller, let's make it more focused, let's make it specific. And Avidity, someone who's an avid fan of something, you know, passion. And if there's one thing I try to be, it's passionate about what I do. So Avidity Arms, very passionate about defense, about efficiency, some of the things we've been talking about, and that's the basis of this design. So the idea is to take a very thin gun, which will fit just about any hand, but give it a full-size grip. So we've got 10+1, 4-inch barrel, very low bore axis, striker-fired gun. The gun, this is a production model prototype. The only thing that's different here is this does not have the trigger block safety. We will have a trigger block safety on there. You got to feel the trigger earlier. It's got good smooth take-up. It's got a crisp break. It's going to be right around 4.5, 5 pounds. And then the reset on the gun is actually very positive. So the reset on the gun pushes your finger forward to that point, and then you can go ahead and break that shot again. And that push is going to help with that fast follow-up reset. You don't have to worry about, you know, waiting for it. If you're
There's very little slack. I really like that.
If you're the fastest shooter out there, you're going to like this. It has a slide release, not a slide stop, not a slide release. So you can see it's angled very aggressively there. It's designed to be pushed up. We're not really worried about pushing it down. We teach people to use that overhand rack method. But certainly if you needed to, you could push this down if you needed to send it home one-handed, things like that. Got the AmeriGlow claw sights, of course, that I worked with them on. Plain rear. We have nothing back there to distract you, to look at, to focus on. Just look through that big wide rear notch, focus on that big square. Very aggressive serrations in the back. Undercuts, contouring here, again, to accommodate small and large hands. And this is something I think that, I don't know why more people don't do this as far as in the gun industry. I think you'll see this more often in the future. We call that a safety index point. It's just, it's some place to put your finger. That positive, keep your fingers somewhere other than the trigger.
Exactly.
And it's the one ambidextrous, quote unquote, feature. It's the one thing that you really have to do to accommodate the left-handed guys. In the CFS program in the I.C.E. training company, we have plenty of left-handers in there, and they assure me that, you know, most of the world isn't catered to the left-hander. And instead of extra bells and whistles on here, learning how to run that gun left-handed, it's something that you can do here. Again, that real positive can't. That angle lets this be pushed up. When you have that emergency malfunction, we can get that locked in there very, very easily and simply. And of course, the magazine release is recessed, but it's also large, so it can be run with the middle finger. But the safety index point, that's important to accommodate on both sides, because where that finger is, it's one of the most tragic things we see in this community is when someone lets that gun creep out of a ready position, go towards a shooting position, that partially extended or even fully extended readies, we know it's very likely that finger is going to start floating down there.
Right.
So if you have a tactile place to keep it, stay focused on what it is you need to be seeing out here. And I prefer people keep that finger in, keep the gun in, which also will then tend to keep the trigger finger away from the trigger until you need to shoot. And then it's a very simple transition.
The other thing that's really nice about that too is, like, if you're opening a door or if you're lifting up a bed or something, the tendency is to do this, or if you're kicking somebody away. But that really, that little pocket right there is really a perfect place to keep your finger, to keep it in place in a line. It's absolutely excellent. You know what else is really nice about this too is it's so slim. It's inherently concealable. I mean, you can carry this any which way you want. You can carry it in a small the back holster. You could carry it. You can even carry it in your waistband. It's not.
It's good.
It's
carryability.
Not at all.
You know, any gun you carry is going to be a compromise, and anybody will see this and say, "Well, gee, Rob, if you really wanted it concealable, why don't you chop the grip?" And we will. You know, we'll come out with the chop grip, and we're going to come out with the 5-inch slide for the guys that want the home defense version, or somebody that wants maybe a single stack production gun, a competition gun. We'll have the 5-inch one. But the reason we did this one first is this is the gun people have been asking since the dawn of the modern striker-fired age for the mid-size to full-size single-stack striker-fired gun. You know, something that's more 1911-ish. A lot of people tell me, I realize I want a striker-fired gun, but I love the way the 1911 feels. I love the way it carries because it's slim, and I don't like those little half grips. We're going to do the half grip. I carry a gun, that 4-inch XDS. The gun I carry is a half-size grip. It's a 7-shot. But the full-size has a much higher level of shootability. So the carryability is there because it's slim. The concealability will be there for the vast majority of positions, vast majority of people if you have a good quality holster. But yeah, second generation, first thing we're going to do, we're going to come out with that gun that's chopped. It'll be easier to conceal, very easy to carry. It's still going to shoot well, but this is the gun that the market doesn't have, the full-size single stack with a medium 4-inch barrel. So I'm excited about bringing it to market.
Big question. Any price set on that yet?
$499.
Really?
Yeah,
that's great.
$499 retail, and we've done a lot of the undercutting and the sort of, we've done the logo in the back, and it serves as stippling. You've got a big magazine release already. You've got the right kind of slide stop. You've got the aftermarket metal sights already on here. So the one, we're not going to have a tritium insert, obviously, in the $499 gun, but that'll be about $460. You'll probably, for the tritium, you'll get that gun. Sorry, $560. $499 is going to be there's the painted Luma square. But that was really part of the mission. We needed a gun people could carry. We needed a gun people could shoot. We needed a gun that was going to be reliable, and we wanted it to be something people could afford. You don't need to spend $1,000 on a carry gun. You got to buy the holster. You got to buy. Hopefully, you're going to take some training. You got to buy the practice ammo. So $499, American-made, 100% American-made gun, distributed by Eagle. And for those of you that are here, you can check us out over there at booth 4742. And there's a bunch of these for you to try out. You can feel the trigger, and but not yet. Go in about half an hour when we're done here. It's
very impressive. I absolutely go down to that booth and check it out, because it's one thing to just see it up here on the stage. It's another thing to actually get it in your hand. While we're talking too, as far as I.C.E., let's talk a little bit about team building, because I know that's a big part of your training and what you do.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of corporate clients that come to us and they say, we thought it'd be fun to go out shooting and do something. And well, we can do that. Team building, a long time ago, I had an opportunity to work when I was out in southwestern Colorado. I was running the Valhalla Training Center. Most of our military and law enforcement students came through there during that era for the counter-ambush class, extreme close quarters counter-ambush, to do stuff that was a little bit outside of the box. So guys were really, really good at what they always trained for, but maybe they weren't training for what happens when that breaks down at the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th level. So that's what we were doing for them, pressure testing some of the stuff they were doing. Well, we were attached as a resort area, it's a tourist area. Telluride, Colorado's 30 miles away. And we had a resort property adjacent to the training facility, and a lot of people came through and saying, well, wow, you teach the Green Berets and the Navy SEALs here. Can I try it? Can I go shoot there? So there was a recreational program on the weekends. We do our 5-day training, and then the staff would run people through these shoot houses. I refer to those people, if you read some of the origin stories, some of the background of our training company and our training programs, as the white mice. Right, we owe those people no extra holes and a smile when they come through. Right, they just at the end, as long as they're happy and they're high-fiving and they're healthy, that's it. It's not training; they're just going for an experience. So we started experimenting with how we trained someone who was not a shooter, who had no shooting skill necessarily at all. How do we get them to be able to go through a 360-degree live fire interactive shoot house? Right. And how fast can we do it? How efficiently can we do it? And it was a great experiment, great clinical environment for my instructors to do something very different from what we were doing on the weekdays. Well, that led to people saying, well, I'd love to bring my corporation here. I'd love to do some team building. I'd love to do this. I'd love to do that. And I took that's somewhere between the recreational student and the person looking for personal defense. When someone comes to me and say, we want our team to be better and stronger afterwards, I talk about team development, right? So it's not just a shared experience. It's not just good times, but it's got to be about learning more about each other, learning about each other's strengths and weaknesses, learning where the team can work together better. Maybe sometimes we even had a few times when people learned maybe somebody doesn't belong on that team because of the way they handled stress or the way they interacted with people under stress. So when it comes to team building, for me, is a lot about finding people's values and finding out where you can help people, right? So there's deficiencies that come up when we're doing something just a little bit challenging. Not just a new shared experience that's fun, but something that's also a little challenging. And personal defense training is challenging, right? Personal defense training is work. Sure, it can be fun. You can have fun. I know a lot of people, it's their hobby. They go to a class a year, class every 6 months. But if you're not being pushed during that, it ceases to be training, it ceases to be practice, and it ceases to be development. So taking people and putting them into a situation where the team is pressured a little bit helps to develop the team, and that's what I try to do with my guys. You know, we do once a year, we do an instructor conference for all of our nationally certified CFS guys. This is our 10th year. We started the conference. The program's been around since 2013. Took us a few years to have enough instructors to bother having a conference because it was pretty much just, we were having a conference every day. There were only 5 of us, right? But
right.
As we started certifying guys outside of the facility we were running and even outside of the U.S., we decided to start doing this conference where we do continuing education, we do updates, and every year we do kind of a team building development event, and we also bring in an outside instructor. So like you were saying, we're bringing somebody from outside of our program to teach us what they're doing, and it may be pistols, or it may be medical, or it may be legal self-defense law stuff, but it's always something that we can learn from, better ourselves, challenge maybe what we're already doing, and compare some notes with other professionals. That's another important part of team development, getting outside of your team.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, hey, we've got you for 3 straight days.
Yep.
So I want to save some of the topics for our next couple of conversations
Absolutely.
here. But it has been an honor and a privilege to talk to you today. And I know everybody got a lot out of this.
I appreciate it.
We'll be seeing you next time.
Thanks, man.
All
See you
right.
tomorrow.
You have a great show today.
Yep, you
All
too.
right, take care.